From Boston, Crockett's Victory Garden.
Welcome to Crockett's Victory Garden. What you see me doing right here is adding a little bone meal among my tulip plants. You know, bone meal is very strong on phosphorus. Phosphorus is that ingredient which helps make flowers come. I wanted to show you that some of these early tulips just now beginning to pop a little color. And a week from now, this early one will be in blossom. This, by the way, is a variety called Joy Bells. Will grow about 8 inches tall and have apricot orange blossoms. Now this is the week that I promised to show you a new way to start your tomatoes and eggplants and peppers very, very fast. And we're going to do that indoors. But outside, we're going to plant some onions in 3 different ways. Onion sets, onion plants, and onion seeds. We're also going to set out some broccoli and cauliflower. And then we're going over to the perennial bed. The perennials are already started out of the ground. We'll show you how to cultivate and get them going. Then I have a hint on how we can grow some radishes, how you can grow some radishes without any worms in the roots and without using any chemicals whatsoever. Now, plus that, I have a special feature on some cloches. But first of all, let's go up here and take a look at my cold frame, show you a little bit about this. Now, you've seen this cold frame and other ones that I've made in the past. We have it covered today, just a little bit on the cool side. I wanted to show you that it does have a hinged cover. The cold frame itself was cut out of a piece of 4 by 4 plywood. This is 1/2 inch plywood. It's about 9 inches tall here, 15 inches here, 4 feet square. Holds an awful lot of plants. Has a fiberglass top on it. The rain, we can keep the rain out if we want to. We can close it down tight at night. On a day such as this, we have it propped open so that we'll get good air ventilation. But we want to talk also about, besides the cold frames, about some cloches. Now, a cloche may be a new word to you, but in England, it's a real thing. It's been around for ages and ages. And in our own garden here, we've used cloches on a number of occasions. Now, here's a cloche, which is only a protective device. You see our little cabbage and lettuce plants, which we set in here just a week ago. It's just a little chilly today. I want to get those plants nice and warm so that they'll grow rapidly. This cloche is made of a piece of plywood, and you can see it has the shaped like a Quonset hut with wire holding it together. Has little prongs that stick down. You just push it right down into the soil like that. Well, one of our staff was in Europe just a week or so ago because we're going to be doing some shows in Europe this spring. And while he was there, they showed him a European cloche, one which I don't think is for sale in this country yet, but knowing the gardeners that we're getting to have in this country, they will be here shortly. Now this seems to be made of a wicket, as though we were playing croquet, right down through the middle of this row of peas. It has a very slender little cover made of polyethylene. Now this will go all the way over when the weather gets cool or at night. You see, this will come clear down to the ground and keep things very warm if you want to. In the morning, on a sunny day, simply slip them up part way or all the way if you want to. But you might like to peek right down in here. You see what's happened to our peas already? A cloche really does help get them off to a flying start. There's nothing like extending the season, if you can, in an inexpensive way. This will save weeks in the spring, weeks again in the fall. I'm going to step across here to the perennial garden just to show you a few of the plants which are coming up at this time of year. One of the things that I like about perennials is the fact that they live through the toughest winters. This little plant that I'm working on here is called Guiam. This will grow about a foot tall with basal leaves, and then above that will come flower stalks another foot beyond. That's spelled, as you see here, G-E-U-M. This one has bright orange flowers. Again, just as with the tulips, I want to build in something which will make flowers. And the best thing that I know, which is non-burning, is bone meal. And just scratch it into the surface like that. Pull away some of those old leaves that have gone by from last year. You can rake all of those up. I hope you put them in the compost pile when you're through. Just like that. I see now next door to it, it's a Shasta daisy just beginning to come out of the ground. But the plant that I really want to show you over here is a little bit different. This is the hollyhock, and the hollyhock can cause some terrible problems. You know, you're thinking of sort of a marvelous old-fashioned flower, and along comes that hollyhock rust, and all of these leaves get covered with these orange, yellow, brown pustules. The plant refuses to function. The blossoms don't come out too well. What you should do is to get a fungicide, and this is one of them that will work, Zyneb. Now you can also use Thiram, Maneb, Furbam, or even sulfur. Now I've just poked a few holes in the top of this, and we're going to dust some of this on the foliage. This is really not the best way. The best way is to get yourself a duster and blow this dust up underneath the foliage. Do it once a week for about 6 or 8 weeks. During the rainy part of the spring, you will protect the foliage, and then you'll get those lovely hollyhocks with the beautiful blossoms during the summer months. I want to go down the row here to another plant because this is one that multiplies very, very rapidly. You see the name of this is beebalm, a red variety called Adam. If you can see where I'm reaching, the center of the plant last spring was just about 4 or 5 inches in diameter. It has now covered an area of at least 30 inches in diameter. Well, if I gave it half a chance, it would be right out in the middle of my garden someplace. So take some of these roots like this. If you don't want to have a neighbor who wants some bee balm, find another place in your garden for it. Otherwise, this one will take over. Bee balm, good way to move them along. Now it's time. We're going to plant some cauliflower and broccoli. Last week you saw me planting some cabbages and lettuce. First of all, let me demonstrate again my planting board. Here's a planting board made with it's 4 feet long with notches every 6 inches. I simply laid this down like so, and I knew exactly where to make the marks to put in my plants. Now the first thing I'm putting in here is a broccoli plant, one called Premium Crop. Nothing to it. When you use your trowel, this soil, of course, you know, we have rototilled it, got it all fixed up beautifully with our nutrients and our organic matter. A little trick you should remember on getting these plants off to a start. Make a little sort of a shallow depression around them and give them a drink of water with a little liquid fertilizer in it. We call this a starter solution. Now, as you saw last week, I'm going to use an inorganic, non-chemical method of keeping these plants protected from that terrible cabbage root maggot. A piece of undercarpeting, such as you use under a rug, slit open, slip it right around the plant, and we simply paste it down like this. Now the story is that the cabbage root maggot flies in, lays her eggs at the base of the plant or in the soil at the base of the plant, and the little maggots hatch and go down and kill the roots. We have given it mechanical protection, and that's all that plant is going to need. We can feed it and watch it grow from here on. Well, while we're right in here, I'm going to slip a lettuce seedling. There's plenty of space right here at the end of this row. You can put a lettuce seedling in there. Remember what you've heard me say about lettuce before. Don't put them in too deeply. So they could be a little wobbly even, and it won't hurt them a bit. Give that a little drink of nutrients. Now you don't seem to need a cutworm collar around that kind of a plant. Now we'll alternate down this row and do our broccoli and our cauliflower and our lettuce in between all the way down. Now I said we'd had a little special treatment here for some radishes because the radish root maggot is an insidious kind of a pest that gets into the radish roots all through the summer, all through the spring. Years ago, in Cynthia Westcott's bug book, she had a little note about how years ago the professionals used to cover their radishes with cheesecloth. So I got this idea of instead of cheesecloth, let's make a little invention here, just a piece of aluminum screening. Simply like that, bend it in a couple of ways, we'll be able to slip it right over the top of the row. So lay this aside. I'm going to scatter my radish seedlings in here. Now I'm just going to throw them right on top of the soil because we watch what happens after that. I'm going to scatter these, several different varieties by the way, because I don't need to have all the same variety of radish at the same time. All you have to do with these is just kind of rumple them up a little bit, and those keep the soil moist. Those radish seeds will be out of the ground in about a week. So we take our cover, just like so, and slip it over the top of that bed. Now you notice that we didn't even we didn't bother to grow them in a little row, just cut them over like that. Put a brick on the side, just like that. Keep those flies out. It's the flies that we want to keep out. Then at the end of the row, just take a couple of shingles, cover them over like that. Now we have a fly-proof barrier to grow our radishes. Now up here, we'll just put a little cover at the other end. And I personally think they're going to have a hard time getting in. Now, just beyond this, I've saved a piece of row in which I'm not going to use any control. We're just going to sow some radishes in here, exactly the same way. And when you watch the program, a month from now, we'll be pulling radishes. And I'm going to show you some. I'm afraid these are going to have some maggots in the roots, and I'm betting you that those that are under the cover just won't have them. Now let's go over and we'll talk about some onions. Now there's several ways to grow onions. The easiest way to get the first onions of the season is to buy onion sets. And they come just like this, all sorts of sizes. The best size are generally the small ones, about like so, no more than 5/8 of an inch in diameter. I see here, pretty good sized one. That one is apt to send up a flower spike, which I'm not interested in. I want to get an onion. So again, the soil is very, very soft. Don't use hard soil and try to push them in. Make the soil soft so that you can just press them in so they just barely go beneath the surface. I'm putting these in about 4 inches apart in each direction. We're making a double row in here. This is one of the brown onions which you can buy. Up here, when it put in a few white onions. Now, one of the problems in buying onions, you see how nice and soft that soil is, a lot of organic matter in there, and that's what will make these onions grow fast. Put the white onions in, just push them down about 4 inches apart so they go down in beneath the soil like so. That's all there is to it. You don't have to do another thing to it. Now you can buy white onion sets and you can buy yellow onion sets. But it's very difficult to buy sets of red onions. They are a little more difficult to carry through the winter. So what we do here is to plant some onion seeds of a red variety. This one is called Red Weathersfield. I've seen this listed in a catalog which came out 100 years ago. Here's a little seedling which is about a month old, a perfectly beautiful little plant. In here, all we do now is set those at the same distance that we would have put in the sets themselves. A little seedling like so. Try another one of these out. Nice little seedlings. These will make a double row about 4 inches apart. And these will grow to be absolutely beautiful onions. Down below here, well, I have another variety. That one's an early yellow globe. I don't think I'll put that one in. But here's a sweet one. This is called White Portugal. Okay, this is not the kind of a variety that you can usually get in a garden center except as seeds. And so I advise starting some of these unusual onions by seed because that will give you the difference in the flavor. Now, onions like to have a soil which is a lot of organic matter. They need a lot of nourishment and a lot of moisture to get them growing so they'd be those big sweet ones, and they have to grow fast. But now we're coming to the type of an onion which are called scallions. Well, scallions have another name for them that's called bunching onions, simply because when you pick them, you actually pull them up by the bunch. We're going to put those in seeds. You can buy bunching onions. Now the seeds are black. You may not see them against this damp soil. Barely see them myself, but I'm putting them in a wide trench, 6 or 8 inches wide, like so. Just like that. They're going in rather thickly, rather almost like grass. They'll come up and there will be some in the way of weeds come up. We'll pull those up, but we won't pull any of the onions. We won't do any of the thinning. Cover them to about a ½ inch, tamp them down, and one day this summer we're just going to come out and pull up a whole bunch of bunching onions. So now let's go indoors. We'll talk about how to start those tomato plants, peppers, and the eggplants. Now, all 3 of these kinds of plants need warm temperatures. When it's cold, they just stand still. There's many a gardener who starts his eggplants and his tomatoes much too early in the season. And when he does, he ends up with plants which are too small. Start them too early, they get too big, and they get woody. But let me tell you first of all what I am going to plant here in the way of tomatoes. I am a great believer in planting several different varieties because I want to get early tomatoes followed by mid-season and late ones. I don't want to wait until September to get my first tomatoes. I'd like to start them here in New England to pick tomatoes early in July. Good variety that I'm going to start with here is Early Girl. Now for mid-season, now there are 100 varieties that you could use, but I'm going to plant Early Girl. I'm going to plant as a mid-season Jet Star and Presto. As our main season tomato will be Burpee Hybrid, Ultra Boy, one called Rutgers 39. I remember Rutgers as a kid, a good variety, but it was not protected against some of the wilts. But now this new Rutgers has that vitality as well as protection. Now another person wants a big tomato, a pink one. We're going to plant a few Ponderosa tomatoes. And then yellow tomatoes I liked, just for the sake of eating quality, one called Sunray. And then cherry tomatoes, I'm going to stick by that old standby called Small Fry, but I'm going to try a new one this year called Sweet 100, because as many as 100 tomatoes can be born on a single spread, they call a hand. Well, this is all that we do to soil them. A pot of potting soil. This is early girl. I don't want too many of these plants. Just pop a few seeds in there. There's a dozen or 15. I'll have enough plants for myself and for my neighbors as well. In this instance, I'm going to cover them over with vermiculite, something which is sterile, will hold moisture. It's easy to handle. Cover them about 1/8 of an inch deep, or maybe even 1/4 of an inch deep. Pat them down just a little bit, and that is ready to grow. Now we'll put them over here, and I must give these, and all plants that we're starting, we have to give them a drink of water. And the best way is a soft spray if you can. Now, the trick that I was going to show you today is how to get these things started off fast. I've made something which you can make at home, which I call a home propagator. Now, this is simply a wooden box with some holes drilled in the bottom of it for drainage. And then I have a heating cable stapled to the bottom of it. Now, the reason your tomatoes and peppers and eggplants will grow fast is what is called bottom heat. The old-timers that had steam-heated greenhouses used to put their seed flats right on the steam pipes. Well, we'll have this bottom heat coming from this electric cable. I put a piece of hardware cloth right in on top of that in case I get a little rough with my trowel. I won't hurt the heating cable. Then, also to distribute the warmth a little bit, we'll add some sand and spread this sand out like so. Then I can take one of these pots of seedlings like that, plug in this little cord, and that soil temperature will be about 74 degrees, and those plants will really grow. That's the quick way to get them started. Let me tell you one little secret about your tomatoes. The professionals don't want a big tomato. You might get the first tomato on the block, but you won't get as many as though when the plants are being set out, they're only about 4 to 6 inches tall. Now let me get to our plant clinic today because I want to talk about a very happy plant at this time of year, the tulip. Now, who could imagine anything more lovelier than a tulip? Now, these bulbs were planted last October. They're in full flower now. To keep them in full flower, you want to remember that they like to be cool. So if at night you can put these in a place where the temperature is just above freezing, 40 or 45 degrees or even lower, they will close right up at night and open up in the daytime, and do this for a couple of weeks. But the time is going to come, unfortunately, that the flowers will fade, and then you end up with something like that. I know what you're thinking, put it in the trash. Well, I don't do that because I know that the Dutchmen have spent a long time producing these bulbs, and they're still good. What I'm going to do is to keep this growing off in an out-of-the-way place until the foliage turns brown completely, knock the bulbs out of it and save them, put them in a paper bag, save them and plant them in the garden next fall. No problem, they'll blossom for you again then. Now I think it's about time that we looked at a few questions. This is from Danvers, Massachusetts. Can you tell me what makes my carrots so strong flavored, almost metallic tasting? Yes, it's because your carrots didn't have enough nourishment or enough moisture. You know, carrots and the Queen Anne's lace of our fields are absolute first cousins, and the true carrot was descended from the Queen Anne's lace, which has, if you remember, a whitish, stringy, very tough tasting root, but it's edible. At any rate, what you need is a good rich soil, plenty of moisture, and all of that sweet carrot flavor will come through. From Schenectady, New York, how long does it take to properly develop a tree geranium? Well, as you know, there is no such thing as a tree geranium, but a geranium shaped in a tree form. Grow a single stem up to a certain height that you decide upon, pinch out the top, and let the branches grow from there. Usually takes 8 or 9 months to produce a good plant, but the plant will last for many years and will become more and more beautiful, providing you shift it into a larger pot and keep it fed. From Lynn, Massachusetts, my bird of paradise has 20 leaves. It's 2 feet high, but it hasn't blossomed. Is there anything I'm doing wrong? Not a thing. I wouldn't be surprised, but you'll have blossoms by the time you hear this question answered. Your plant is big enough. Feed it about once a month with any houseplant fertilizer. Keep it as cool as you can, and be sure it has sunshine. That's the key to getting blossoms. Another question. When will garlic cloves planted last September be ready for harvest? Well, garlic, of course, is an herb which has been grown in Europe for many, many years. And in Europe, they have the slogan, you plant your garlic on the shortest day of the year and harvest it on the longest day of the year, which works in this country too. I'll say that you should probably harvest your garlic about the 3rd week in June, and it should be ready at that time. From Long Island. We live on Long Island and have ordered 2 dwarf peach trees. Will we be able to grow them in large tubs on either side of our front door facing east? Yes, I would think you could. The only problem that you're going to have is this. Please protect those tubs from freezing, the soil in the tubs from freezing, because that is what will hurt the plant more than anything else. Leave the plants outdoors, but mulch in around the tubs with soil or sawdust or something to keep the soil from freezing. Last spring, well, this is about radishes and diazinon. We just have covered that one. From Sandusky, Ohio, when persimmons appear on the market, I'd like to save the seeds and plant them. Will they grow in our climate here in Sandusky? Yes, because you are right beside the lake, and that climate will allow you to grow them, but it takes you a long time. If I were you, I'd go out and buy a couple of plants and get them started right away, right this spring. Well, they say that's all the time I have for today, but next week we're going to go to a suburban garden. I'm going to give you a pruning demonstration. We're going to do some grafting of a fruit tree and see some grafts that we did a year ago and see the progress on them. I hope to plant some corn, and we certainly are going to put in an asparagus bed. I'm Jim Crockett in Crockett's Victory Garden, and I hope you enjoy the program every week.